So I just watched the Avatar Aang, the last Airbender movie, and this is going to be what I think of it. Now, if you just clicked on this because you want to know if it's worth watching or not, and you don't feel like listening to me talk, yes, I think it's worth watching. I think it's a very good film, and you should watch it. With that out of the way, here's what I liked about it, here's what I didn't like about it. Most of this video is going to be spoiler free. I will have a section at the end that has spoilers, but I will make it very, very clear when that section comes up, and I will timestamp it, so if you haven't watched the movie, you can just stop before that part. Anyways, the first thing I want to say is that the animation is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like, every single frame is a piece of artwork. You could pause it at a random part in the movie, and then you could just stare at that frame for 5 minutes and get enjoyment from that alone. You know, like it's beautiful. The art style, the colors, my God, the colors, the animations, the fight sequences, like everything is beautiful. And I don't think, anyone would really contest that. They do a really good job at capturing the feel of Avatar while still making it feel a little different because it's a different medium and it's a different time period. It's like, I want to say it's like 10, 15 years, maybe like 13 years after the original show ended. Okay, so now let's get to the story. This story's fine. It's something amazing. I'm not going to talk too much about it in this section because this section's spoiler free, but later in the video I will address specific points. But right now, I want to talk about the pacing. So the pacing is really fast. It feels like every scene has some epic action sequence to it. And that's fine, and it's really cool. And I like all of these scenes, like I don't think any of them are bad. I think they're all fantastic, like cool set pieces and action sequences. But one of the things that makes people love Avatar so much is their attachment to the characters. And the reason people got us so attached to these characters is because we spent a lot of downtime with them. The original show had a lot of slice of life moments and sometimes entire episodes that were just the gang hanging out and interacting with each other. And that really lets you get to know the characters and allows those characters to kind of get to know each other without the pressure of time or an action sequence sort of getting in the way. The end credits of this movie have a bunch of artwork that they just kind of show off, and a lot of them are just pictures of Team Avatar hanging out together, eating dinner together, those sorts of things. And I really wish we got to see those in the movie, not just a piece of art at the end credits. I wish there was a scene of Team Avatar just hanging out without the pressure of some doom or thing that they gotta figure out looming over them. I wish the movie could have just taken some moments to breathe, because I mean, it moves from one thing to the next. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing, but I just personally really wanted to spend, the reason I was so excited about this movie is I was just excited to get to spend more time with these characters that I grew up with. I grew up watching these characters when I was in elementary school and rewatching them over and over again, and I was excited to get to visit them again. But I feel like I didn't really have any time to spend with them because they were just too busy constantly like fighting or getting thrown into dangerous situations. Now, I understand that animation of this caliber, because once again, it looks amazing, is very expensive. And it's very much proportionately tied to how long the movie is. Every second longer the movie gets, the more expensive it gets. The movie runtime is an hour and 39 minutes, which is only so much time, and they have a story to tell. So I understand why it's so fast paced. I get it. I just wish we had like one slice of life scene with the gang hanging out and talking together. Now, this leads me to my next point. So there's a scene where they interact with a funny and quirky spirit voiced by Taika Waititi. It's not a bad scene or anything. I just really didn't think that the character, or really the scene as a whole, was really that funny at all. It was kind of cringe, a little too quirky for my taste, and it was fairly childish. Plenty of people will probably like the scene, that's fine. And I understand that the show is based on a children's TV show, but let's face it, the people watching this movie probably aren't 10-year-olds. They're either people my age who grew up with the show, or maybe a newer generation that got into it later, but they're probably still like teenagers or something. Anyway, the scene's like fine, I don't think it's bad or anything. Plenty of people will like it, but I didn't think it was very funny, and it added absolutely nothing to the story. Now, remember earlier when I said that they were limited on time and they needed to use it efficiently? Yeah, I would have preferred it if they had just replaced this scene with one of those slice of life scenes I was talking about earlier of Team Avatar just hanging out and talking together and making jokes and opening up, what have you. Something like that would have served the movie a lot better, in my opinion, than just having some weird, quirky, like, spirit world scene. That being said, the scene's cool, the spirit, like, character design is interesting, and I do like getting to see more of the spirit world and getting to see the weird, like, wackiness that the spirit world sort of enforces on reality, because it doesn't follow the laws of reality, and it's interesting to see how the characters' emotions and the overall, discord in the spirit world overall is like affecting them physically in the spirit world. So there's definitely some merits to that scene, and it's interesting. So I'm not gonna say it's bad, but once again, I would have rather they just replaced it with like a dinner scene. Now, if you watch my channel at all, you know I'm a big, big fan of lore. I do in-depth Dungeons and Dragons lore videos. If you're interested in that, you should check it out. And I love lore. I love learning about fictional histories. And because of that, I really, really enjoyed this movie, because the Avatar universe is one of my favorite fictional universes, and I love learning more about like its history and its world, and we do get a little bit of that in this movie. Even though it is really fast paced, we still get a good amount of it. We get to kind of get a glimpse of what the nations were like 5,000 years ago. We get to see what air nomad culture was like, in the past, because they've sort of, changed over time. We get to see different air tattoos. In Legend of Korra, there's some flashback scenes to 10,000 years ago when the first Avatar was created, and we see that the Airbenders had different tattoos. And then we get to see another like set of Airbenders from the past that had even different tattoos. So it's cool to see how their tattoos change over time. It was cool seeing like how air nomad culture worked back then, but I'll get into that in a little bit because I don't want to spoil anything. Now, when it comes to the voice acting, so originally I was kind of annoyed that they didn't get any of the original voice actors, because the original voice actors are all seem like really cool people. They all really enjoy the show and really enjoy their characters, and they have very unique and iconic voices. And like I said, I grew up with these characters. I'm used to them sounding a specific way. And the voice actors are grown up now. They're not that young anymore, but the characters in the movie are also grown up. So I think it would have been fine if they had just kept the same voice actors. However, I think the voice actors did a really good job. The only one that really felt out of place to me was Katara. Not that the voice actress was bad or anything, because that's not the case. It's just something about her voice didn't really fit the way she looked. Every time she talked, it just seemed like the voice and her face didn't really go well together. But everyone else I thought was like fit really, really well. I was worried that Steven Yeun might take me out of the movie just because he's in so many other things I've seen. But him as Zuko fit really well. Honestly, everyone really fit well. The only one I was like really upset that I didn't get the original voice actor in was Roku, because the original Roku voice actor is just like so legendary, and so when you hear some other guy's voice as Roku, it's just not the same, man. But I mean, he has like one line of dialogue, so it really doesn't matter. Overall, the voice acting was very, very phenomenal in this movie. Okay, so the spoiler-free section's over. The rest of this video, there will be spoilers. I will be talking about the movie, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you care about spoilers, please, 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 please click off, pause the video, go watch it before you continue. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get on to the spoiler section. So I want to go back to the story. As I said earlier, the story was fine. It's nothing super unique. I mean, there's a MacGuffin, there's a bad guy, he's trying to get the MacGuffin. You got to get it before he does, because he's gonna like destroy Republic City or whatever. It's fine. It's simple. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's fine to have a simple story in this kind of movie. However, usually Avatar tends to make things a little more complicated. Avatar doesn't really like to do the cut and dry good versus evil stuff. They like to make the world a little more complex and more realistic, and they like to sort of throw in these difficult moral decisions, which I guess they sort of did at the end when Aang chooses to destroy the staff. But my point is, Avatar tends to have a little bit more like realistic, complicated aspects of the story, and this one didn't really have that, but overall it was fine. My main gripe is having a magic staff is very much a traditional fantasy trope, in the likeness of Dungeons and Dragons or Lord of the Rings. And obviously I love those things. This whole channel is just Dungeons and Dragons lore, but I don't really think it fits the Avatar universe, in my opinion. Avatar's always been a lot more grounded in like the stories it tells, and when there is supernatural elements, it's based in this like esoteric and mysterious spirit world stuff where the spirits are sort of beyond our concepts of morality and they don't really make sense to us, and there's just kind of weird spirity things going on. But having like this magic artifact that gives you unlimited power and turns you into like a big glowing like purple anime monster, it didn't really feel like Avatar to me. It was a little it was a little out there, but I am a sucker for classic fantasy tropes and magic staves, so it didn't really bother me that much, but I felt it was worth criticizing. Now, in terms of things that I did like about the story, I thought, like I said earlier, I thought it was cool getting to see more world history and lore of the Avatar universe. I thought the Airbenders were kind of interesting because whereas in like the Yang Chen novels or the Roku novels, Airbenders are almost like missionaries. They provide like disaster relief and they go help people in times of need. The air nomads in the time of Avatar Sonam were almost more like were peacekeepers or almost like diplomats was the sort of idea that I think it was implying, where if there were conflicts between nations and arguments and wars, they would go and they would mediate and they would try to like keep the peace. Which fits them pretty well. They didn't have the 4 air temples that we see in the original TV show. They just had one temple that was like this big temple city that was sort of like their home base, and they would send people out. I was worried that another evil airbender would just kind of be a rehash of Zahir from season 3 of Legend of Korra. But I think Taga definitely felt unique enough, you know, because Zahir is like a freedom fighter and he values everyone equally. So equal to the point that if someone has power, like a queen or the Avatar, he wants to kill them. But he values like benders and non-benders and all the different elements as the same. Having a like, I guess it's not like a racial superiority, but like a cultural supremacist airbender who thinks that like air is the best because all the other elements always lead to violence, and he wants to build like an empire of air. Like, I don't know, that was kind of interesting. And I thought he was a really cool design character. I thought his motivation like made sense. I thought his story was neat. He was so powerful, he got like locked away by the Avatar. She couldn't even kill him. And that's another thing. Like maybe she could have killed him and she didn't want to, or maybe she wasn't power enough to kill him, but she just locked him away. But when you lock people away, anyone who's, you know, been involved in the fantasy genre ever, you know that eventually they're going to get released and wreak havoc on the world. And that's a big theme in Avatar, is that the Avatar is powerful and like a peacekeeper, but they're flawed and they're not perfect. And a lot of times avatars are just dealing with the consequences of the past Avatar's actions. You know, Aang had to stop a war that was kind of Roku's fault. Kyoshi had to deal with all of these, you know, like bandits and pirate, like all of these fractured people that were causing all this inner conflict within the humans because Kuruk spent too much time focusing on spirit affairs. Kuruk was focusing on all of this spirit world stuff because Yangchen did the opposite. She focused too much on human affairs. So it's a cool theme that they continued, except this time it was an avatar like hundreds of avatars ago instead of the most recent one. But I thought his story was cool. I thought Avatar Sonam was cool. I thought her tattoos and her clothes, like Avatar Sonam's fit was like so sick. I love the way she looked. Another thing I really liked about the movie is the way the world looked, the aesthetic. And what I mean by that is Brian and Mike and everyone who works on the Avatar franchise is always really, really skilled at progressing their world. A lot of fantasy settings kind of just stay the same. They have the same technological advancement for centuries. They never really advance much. The cultures and the civilizations kind of remain the same for like millennia or whatever. Brian and Mike are really, really good, and the other people that work on the show are really good at showing a world that is constantly changing and evolving over time and having it make sense and just kind of come to a logical conclusion. I always thought that Korra made a lot of sense, that like they would have entered this industrial revolution because of the technological advances from the Fire Nation now being accessible to everyone. Not to mention you now have like 5 times the amount of people putting their brains together to advance technology because now there's peace and everyone's like, you know, you have people from different nations living in one city, so it makes sense all these advancements would have happened. And so watching the movie, you know, it takes place like 60 years before Korra, like 12, 15 years after Last Airbender, it shows that, like, it doesn't look quite like Last Airbender. Things are a little bit more advanced. Cities are a little bit more metropolitan. Airships are more common. Sokka invents like a weird flying bike thing somehow. I don't think about that part too much. But it's not quite like the 1920s New York style that Legend of Korra is, because we're still 60 years away from that. And so they did a really good job at making it feel like it made sense. It looks like a world that's advanced about 15 years after the show, but still has several decades to go before Korra. Like it felt natural. It felt like it made sense. It felt realistic. It was good world building. They're really good at that. And yeah, I think that's everything I want to say. I know I had a lot of criticisms, but there's a lot of things I really liked about this movie, and even if maybe you have more gripes with it than I do, I think you'll still enjoy watching it just because it looks so fucking sick, guys. Like, it looks so cool. But yeah, I know this isn't my normal video. It's probably going to get killed by the algorithm because people aren't going to click on it and YouTube's going to get mad at me. But that's fine. I wanted to review something that I love, which is the Avatar universe. If you guys want me to start doing lore videos on Avatar, let me know, because I have considered it. But it probably doesn't get nearly as in-depth as D&D, because there's just a lot less content. But yeah, thank you. If you made it this far, thank you guys for watching and supporting the channel.